What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of your favorite, biggest little soccer podcast on the internet at Stateside Footy. I, of course, am Steve Silver, and joining me tonight from Massive Report, Ty Fisher joins us. Ty, good evening, my man.
How are you?
I can't complain, man. The real question is, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm about 20 minutes out of a nap. Needed
Ooh,
it after a
nice.
long day today. So, yeah, I'm doing all right.
I feel you, man. I was on the couch this afternoon watching Sunderland take on Leeds. I was watching Brendan Aronson play today, but midway through it, I ended up conking out because, well, quite frankly, I was watching Sunderland versus Leeds. So
Yeah.
sometimes that happens. But there's nothing better than like a late afternoon nap, let me tell you. Tonight we're going to be covering the Columbus Crew as we are getting closer to the playoffs. I just wanted to figure out how everything is going. So I figured out why not bring on the guy who knows the most about the Crew 96. But before we get into it, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also, go ahead and share this on your social media because we're trying to grow this channel out. And if you want to be a part of tonight's conversation, go ahead and just drop a comment in the comment section. And of course, we'll answer your questions tonight. So the Columbus Crew, 2-2-1 in their last 5. That includes 2 wins over Toronto FC and Orlando City, but also 2 draws against their in-state rivals, Cincinnati FC, and of course the DC United, which I still can't really understand. I can't fathom how they allowed that crappy team to come back into that match. And then, of course, the Campeones Cup shootout loss, and then, of course, losing to Inter Miami FC. So first and foremost, what's going on, man?
I think fatigue is getting the best of us at the worst time possible, honestly. After Leagues Cup, I think we played, I want to say north of like 8 matches back to back in about a 4-week span almost, if my math is serving me right. But it's just been Wednesday, Saturday, maybe a little break here where we play just on a Saturday, but then it just goes back to a double game week. Obviously the loss against Miami was tough. But I think with everything coming to an end in these next couple weeks, I think the guys are going to be good enough to, kind of take a step back, get their legs back under them, get their bodies right, and be prepared for the playoffs.
Absolutely. You mentioned fatigue, and when you look at everything in totality, last year's run to the MLS Cup, it included Leagues Cup last summer. They played a lot of soccer, including this year, going to the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, Leagues Cup again this year, winning that, and now we're deep into this season. So they played an awful lot of soccer in that time frame, and it makes perfect sense. But I want to get into that that loss to Miami because not only did it give Miami the supporter shield. I don't know how you feel about the supporter shield. To me, it's not that big. I don't think it's that big of a deal because now in the history of supporter shield winners, not a lot of them have gone on to win the double. So I mean, it's a nice little hey, you had a really good regular season award, but at the end of the day, the most thing that matters is, to me at least, is MLS Cup. If you're able to finish it off, that's a great season. As far as I'm concerned, the East rolls through Columbus. Me personally, I think they have the MVP in Cucho Hernandez. I think they have the best coach in the league in Wilfied Nancy. Fatigue aside, sorry for that. Fatigue aside, I still think this team. I think this team is phenomenal.
Yeah,
like all the way around.
Yeah, I think another part of it is whenever the Crew are like on a roll, and losses hurt, but I think fans alike can understand the way that we lose, the way that we're losing, or getting a point instead of 3. It's more so we've played a lot of games. We can understand, that these guys are tired. They're human beings too. We can't rely on them to be, play on Saturday and then be at 100% fitness Wednesday, then 100% like the next Saturday. But we're living now, at least Crew fans are in a very good era to where it's almost too good to be true, and we have to enjoy it while it lasts because I personally don't see Cucho being here long term or Nancy being here long term. I think if the right deal comes around on the table for Cucho Hernandez, he's back to Europe.
Yep.
And if the right deal comes for Nancy, maybe not next year, but the year after that, he's gone too. So we have to enjoy these good moments while they last.
Absolutely. I think you hit that right. You hit it right on the head. I don't think Wilfred Nancy's going to be sticking around long term. But I want to ask you about this defense specifically because they've only conceded 36 on the season, 11 clean sheets. That puts them in the top 3 as far as total defense in Major League Soccer. And when you see these results, you mentioned fatigue earlier, but what impact of not replacing Aiden Morris has that played a role?
The impact of replacing Aiden Morris really hasn't played a role. Yeah, he was I will say like our bash brother almost in the midfield. I mean, because he's the one that goes into the hard tackles. Darlington Nagbe, the other center mid that he was paired with, is more of the possession guy in the midfield. But I think we've done a good job at moving Sean Zawadzki into that position to kind of be the balance between tackles and possession. Alex Matan, who also plays there at times, he's more of the attacking midfield with Nagbe. But the shoes that Aiden Morris left vacant have definitely been filled in their own way. It's like I was saying last year when people were complaining about Diego Rossi coming to Columbus, replacing Lucas Zelarayan. You can have another good 10 like Diego Rossi, but you can't put Lucas Zelarayan technicalities or qualities inside him. Expecting him to make free kicks or be one of those dynamic assist playmakers. Diego Rossi is a 10 in his own way, just like Sean Zawadzki is a 6 or an 8 in his own way. So the balance that Wilfred Nancy has had with Diego Rossi last year and Sean Zawadzki filling in midseason for Aiden Morris has honestly paid off really well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I was just kind of curious because whenever you have that young guy making his first move over to Europe, obviously you don't want to impede that move. You're going to want to give him all that leeway as much as possible. And of course, that turned out well for him because he's gotten now two straight calls with the U.S. men's national team off the back of his phenomenal run with Middlesbrough. Were you? I would probably assume you weren't surprised that he hit the ground running there in the championship, right?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I think it's more so I'm just going to pick up right where I left off and show Borough fans how well I played. Borough fans love him. After the first couple preseason games, they're like, "Oh, we love this kid. We love this kid. Thank you, Columbus." He even has a song from Borough fans right now.
It's amazing. It's amazing. What the interesting thing about it is he wasn't necessarily on my radar for the U.S. men's national team. Not that I didn't think that he was, capable. It was, when you look at the role that Tyler Adams has filled with the national team, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I always say that timing is everything, and because Tyler Adams can't stay healthy, it opened the door at the defensive mid position that allows guys like Aiden Morris, Johnny Cardoso, Tanner Tessman to step in to potentially potentially fill that role. And so far, Aiden Morris has been that guy. That's actually for me has been one of the biggest pleasant surprises with the U.S. men's national team. I can't rave enough about him.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see how well he does under Mauricio Pochettino in this upcoming window in Austin.
Dude, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be, it's going to be like, I don't know how you felt about it, but when that word came down that Mauricio Pochettino was actually going to lead my red, white, and blue, I was like, oh man, like I'm the biggest Tottenham Hotspur, honk in the world, right? Like I go back so far with the Spurs, and there's no it's no coincidence that the 5 years that Poch was at White Hart Lane was basically the best run Spurs have had like in 50 years.
I think I would have been more upset if a lot of people were like, "Oh, Wilfred Nancy's a front runner for USMNT." I'm like, we can't lose him yet. Like, we're doing really well. Like, come on, guys.
Yes. Could you imagine? Can you? I
Oh
mean,
man.
that would have like it would have been intriguing, but it's like I don't like. I look at I look at the body of work Wilfred Nancy has in Major League Soccer. It's good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not taking anything away from his accomplishments, but like, is he ready to step from what the Columbus Crew to the U.S. Men's National Team? It's like that seems like it's a just a lofty jump, man.
That's a stretch. He
Yeah,
did say he wants to manage a national team. He didn't say which one, but I would assume, if Didier Deschamps
Didier
ends
Deschamps.
up
Yeah,
ends up,
yeah,
retiring, maybe it's the French national team. But I think it was just too early for him
sure.
to even be thinking about the USMNT job. Maybe a year and a half in Columbus, and then you jump to the national team. You're kind of leaving a blank space to open up for another coach to come into Columbus and change everything right when we were starting to get used to the three-back system that he plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Before we get into the whole brouhaha with the supporter shield and
Mhm.
the whole Inter Miami, what I like to consider massive bullshit when it came to the whole Club World Cup thing, I want to talk about Patrick Schulte real quick. Uh, in the context of young American goalkeepers in Major League Soccer, I think Patrick Schulte's the best. I think from that standpoint, you can understand why he's gotten called up to the national team now twice. He was the starter at the Summer Olympics, and I think he did okay. I didn't think he was necessarily great against France and Morocco, but it's France and Morocco. It is what
Yeah,
it is, right?
yeah,
Um, but sometimes when I watch him play, like overall his body of work is good, but there always seems to be just a few plays where he seems to be out of position a little bit, and then he misses saves that you kind of look at and you're like, man, if he was like 5 years older, like if he was like right in the middle of his prime, with these type of lapses happen. But that being said, then I watch him with the Crew, and it's like, oh, okay, what
yeah,
I mean? I get
yeah,
it. I get it. It seems
yeah,
like he's a little bit more dialed in with the Crew than he is
yeah.
with the
I
national team.
I think the biggest thing is Patrick Schulte when he was with Columbus Crew too, after getting drafted out of St. Louis University, in the I think it was 22 MLS Super Draft. Uh, Being with Columbus Crew too and getting his playing time started there under Laurent Courtois, um, he started to find his footing a little bit with the system that Courtois was playing at the time. Obviously, took them to MLS Next Pro Championship in their inaugural year, along with Jason Russell Rowe. Then gets the bump to the first team, gets thrown to the Wolves against Philadelphia last year. So it's now kind of the same system that Courtois was playing. So he's used to it. He's used to being that sweeper keeper, almost all the way up to the midfield line, and being that kind of fourth defender with no goalkeeper. Being in the Olympics, it kind of switched a little bit with the system, the style of play that the US U20s were playing, or U23, sorry, U23s were playing. And he was he was there, he wasn't there. I think he wanted to be the Patrick Schulte that he is in Columbus, but it's kind of limited when you're playing with uh the national team and you want to represent the country really well.
Sure.
So it's kind of he wanted to do what he wanted to do, but he also didn't want to be the one that kind of go against what the head coach wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And things happen like that, and things happen like that where you have a good game, you have a bad game, you have an okay game, but again, you said it's France and Morocco. I mean, Morocco
Yeah.
had Achraf Hakimi, uh,
Jesus.
France under the direction
Jesus.
of Thierry Henry.
Yeah, and you got Lacazette throwing missiles at you. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my
Kicking
gosh,
missiles.
yeah. So I like Patrick. He's a good guy on and off the field to talk to. And I think people just kind of give him the stick because they are easy saves if he misses one or whatnot. But at the same time, you got to think these are professionals. These guys have been playing
Yeah.
all of their life. And we're fans or we're media
Yeah.
people in the press box or in the stands, haven't played in years. So things are a little bit different on a playing field site than they are from about a bird's eye view or 10 rolls up off the field.
The big question right now is, who's better long term for the U.S. team? Is it going to be Patrick Schulte, or is it going to be Gaga Slonina, who applies his trade in League One with Barnsley? I think both have an incredible skill set, and I think their ceilings are incredibly high. A lot of people give Gaga crap, because he's playing in League One. But that being said, it's like, I don't know, man. I think they're both. I think they're both equally gifted. I don't think either are really all that great with the ball at their feet, especially when you're playing in a system like Greg Berhalter. Mikey Barris ran the exact same system for this last window, where essentially you're trying to play like Barca 2012 or Brazil 1970. You know what I mean? Where you're just married to playing out the back, and of course, if you're being pressed high at the field, you know what I mean. If you don't have that outlet, it's not going to look good, regardless. Especially behind the U.S.'s back line. Yeah. So but that being said, man, of the two, I can understand why people like Patrick Schulte. I can understand it. But that being said, that to me is going to be a fun story over the next year, because both guys are highly motivated. And right now, Schulte he has the edge because he's obviously getting called into camp. But that being said, it's going to be like, what I want to see is both of them in the National League team camp pushing each other. You know what I mean? That's what I want to see. You know what I mean? Like, that's they say iron sharpens iron. You're not getting that. You're not getting that with Matt Turner or Ethan Horvath in there. You know what I mean? Like, me personally, I think those national team careers are pretty much done. They're in right now because we don't have a deep goalkeeper pool right now. Right. But that being said, when you get that other young guy in there that wants to be the number one.
Yeah. And I also think, a little bit of Gaga Slonina when he was with Chicago, then goes to Chelsea, and, he didn't really, have his chance to shine at Chelsea, I don't think. But I think, he's getting playing time with Barnsley now. Schulte obviously gets called into, the Olympics, plenty of playing time with Columbus. I think these two keepers are probably the choices going forward now, with maybe a veteran like Matt Turner or Ethan Horvath to kind of be that third, to kind of give them a little bit more of like an Evan Bush style, where he's just there to help prep them.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that. But all right. So let's switch gears real quick. And we mentioned the latest loss with the Columbus Crew. I'm curious to know, because last year Crew lifted the MLS Cup. Very good season. And that obviously warranted the CONCACAF Champions League this year. It also segued into a nice Leagues Cup victory. So you have two very good pieces of hardware in the trophy case. Okay. And you almost added a third with the CONCACAF Champions League. The resume for the Columbus Crew being in the FIFA Club World Cup is there. It's already set. They've done everything that they've been asked to do. Everything that was put in front of them, they took down with the exception of the Champions League. But that being said, they've earned it. Miami gets the supporter shield. Okay, congratulations, right? But they get put into the Club World Cup, not the Columbus Crew. To me, I think that's a robbery of the highest form. I think it's 100%. Now, here's the thing. I understand, because from an MLS standpoint, they're the glamour team. It's Messi, it's Suarez, it's the guys that have played in the in the Champions League overseas, big names. It's like the marquee team of Major League Soccer. 100%. They're going to do whatever they can to put them on the global stage. Understood. But it's the supporter shield, and I don't know how you feel about the supporter shield. I don't think it's as big as an MLS Cup.
Yeah.
Right? Some people will say, well, it's hard to win a supporter shield. I was like, yeah, that's true, but it's also hard to win an MLS Cup. It's not the easiest thing to do. And if you remember back in 2014, Seattle won the supporter shield. Best team in Major League Soccer, and then they get absolutely dummied by Portland in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. It's incredibly hard not only to win to win the double, but it's incredibly hard to do one and then the other. And it's like, I think it was disrespectful on so many levels that the Crew get left out when they have clearly been the best team in Major League Soccer over a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. I saw that the other day. And obviously it was one of those things where it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, we knew it was going to happen. But I've had a couple of sources kind of negate that fact, honestly. So somebody said that they spoke to someone at Columbus that nobody has been informed of any decision about that. It was pointed out to them that, deciding on the spot right now after not announcing anything ahead of the time wouldn't only, piss off the team, but any other team that they could think of, getting that spot. I kind of agree. I would say I agree because I think the writing's on the wall, honestly,
Sure.
for Miami to get that spot. But I think it's more so of I want to wait a little bit before me personally, I start getting too upset if FIFA or someone were to come out and say yes, Miami's getting it. But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think Columbus over the last year and a half, 2 years, has been the most consistent team in the league. I think it was more so of, hey, Miami has Barcelona on their team. Of course, we're going to put them in because they obviously know the tournament. They know whatever it is to be the mainstay for MLS besides the Seattle Sounders to compete, quote unquote, for that trophy. But I think Columbus has done everything right, like you said. Aside from winning CONCACAF Champions Cup, they've been consistent. They've been the best team in MLS for probably since we beat Cincinnati in the conference final last year. But to do it on a consistent basis and not be rewarded with a spot like that is absolutely asinine.
Oh,
I and the other part, I wholeheartedly agree. I don't think the Shield is that important. A Shield doesn't get a star on your jersey. Like Columbus has 3. It's we knew the writing was on the wall as soon as Suarez's header went in on the other night. It is what it is, I would say, if it does become official, but I think it's the biggest blasphemy I've ever seen.
Well, when you look at the context of what the Crew do, especially when it comes to their shrewdness within their cap, when teams like Miami and LAFC go out there and make the splashy make the splashy transfer, it's like Columbus sits back and it maximizes potential for whatever position that they need to fill, and it's not based on, oh, dude, we're going to go out there and just grab headlines. It's not about headlines. It's about winning. It's about winning football matches.
Yeah.
Right. And the Columbus Crew operate like the Sounders used to operate, where it was. It's not about winning the transfer window. It's just about getting better positionally and maximizing that opportunity. Like there was the Sounders used to do a phenomenal job of their oldest DP contract. They would turn around and convert that into TAM money. They turned it into a TAM contract, right? So they would renegotiate, open up a new DP spot, and open up salary cap in order to fill that later on, right? It almost feels like Columbus operates in the same manner, where it's like, listen, we understand that we only have so much room to operate within, but we're going to have to maximize this as much as possible. And we're going to make sure that not only do we fill that position, but we're going to upgrade. Of what we used to have.
Yeah. I also think it's. Yeah, I think it's also one of those things where it's like, oh, the small market teams don't get a lot of love from the league because they're not in LA, they're not in New York, they're not in Miami because David Beckham or Manchester City, whatever. It's one of those things where you see LAFC sign Giroud, Hugo Lloris, Miami gets Alba, Busquets, Suarez, Messi, and whatever. And you kind of sit there and like, man, I wish we had that. But at the same time, it's like, let's see what we have. And I think Columbus has done absolutely amazing, capitalizing on the youth, the crew too, and utilizing the loans effectively,
Yep.
except for the Magic in Seattle, uh, and just kind of finding those hidden gems out in Europe with Dylan Shambost,
Yep.
Yevon Shaberko last year when he came over finally. So I think Columbus just does things on their own, and the rewards are there for us. MLS Cup, Leagues Cup, and another playoff berth.
And then when you look at the bringing in Cucho from Watford, and
Mhm.
I think it was what 9.55 million.
Yeah,
I think it was transfer fee, which surprised me a little bit because I didn't think Columbus would spend on the upper tier of a DP,
yeah.
but I'm glad they did because
Oh yeah,
you bring in an MVP candidate like Cucho, and of course we're gonna move on to that topic as well too because Cucho this year has been absolutely fantastic. You talk about the current stretch that Columbus is in 2-1 in the last five, and even in the draw with DC United, Cucho scored in that one. In the loss to Miami, he scores again. This year, he's 17 goals, 9 assists, and 21 starts, 1,966 minutes. The dude's MVP candidacy is real.
yeah.
It's 100% real. The crazy thing about this is it's like when I think about this, in his 2.5 seasons, he's posted 42 goals, 60 G plus A. It almost feels like he's the figurehead of what Wilson Nancy is trying to do with Columbus, and I think that putting that responsibility on his shoulders, he's been able to run with it in Columbus. And then when you kind of look at what's in totality, I don't like the idea of Messi as MVP, being as MVP because I don't think that he's as important to Miami as Cucho is to Columbus. I mean, when Messi goes out, I think it was July 14th. They had 4 or 5 games that he was out. That's not including Leagues Cup. Just
Mhm.
league matches, they won them all. Miami ends up winning them all, and I think they scored 11 goals in his absence. He comes back, great, he's fine. And when you look at his numbers, it's like can you really give a dude that's only played less than half of the season the MVP? That's number one. But number two, it's also how do you factor in Luis Suarez? Do those two cancel each other out because of the voting system? Then you
Mhm.
have Christian Benteke with DC United, who's probably going to win the Gold Boot, who is phenomenal in his own right. And then you have the counterpart in Ohio with Lucho Costa, last year's reigning MVP, who probably has a better candidacy this year than he did last year. He's absolutely. I love Cucho, but it is what it
Great,
is,
great
right?
player.
So, and then you have Evander in Portland, and I
Yeah,
understand that you got 3 guys in Portland. Their front 3 in the attack all have 14 goals, 14 goals apiece, but none of that happens unless Bill Neville doesn't unlock Evander, right? Because
yeah,
along with those goals, he's also got 14 assists as well too. Like that, like the Portland engine doesn't run if Evander's not there, right? So you have you literally have 2 guys who literally make that engine go in
yeah.
Cucho Hernandez and Evander in Portland.
I think those 2 are my top 2, honestly,
Yeah,
for MVP. You could throw in Benteke, obviously, currently leading Golden Boot, like you said. But I think for somebody who gets it done on both sides of the ball, those 2 are definitely my leading 2. Am I biased in saying Cucho Hernandez is probably my front runner? Probably, but I'm
yeah.
also looking at
It's all good, man. Show your
that's
bias. It's all good because
I'm
I'm still the guy who's shouting like Jordan Morris should probably still be a part of the national team.
but I mean, I'm also basing it off of I've seen much more of Cucho when he
Yeah,
came than I have of Evander in watching Portland Timbers matches. Cucho Hernandez is one of those forwards who I don't see a lot of number 9s dropping in towards the midfield, maybe being just sitting in front of the back line to collect a pass and absolutely ping a ball to Mohamed Farsi running down the right wing about
it's
4
amazing.
times out of a game, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you're asking a number 9 to not only score goals, but to help set up,
Oh,
other goals or if he gets on the end of that, set up his own goal. I also don't see a lot of number 9s also playmaking like Evander or anybody else. Even though I don't think Evander's even a number 9. I also don't see a lot of number 9s being a playmaker like Cucho Hernandez. So yeah, you can say, Suarez, oh, he's done a lot with less, but he's Luis Suarez. And and somebody had said, oh, it's Luis Suarez. He's won Champions League. He's won Premier League. He's won such and such. I'm like, but he hasn't won MLS Cup yet. He hasn't done anything to prove his worth in MLS yet.
Yeah.
But I think Cucho Hernandez is honestly the front runner for me to be this MVP. And I think it's going to be one of those things where, hey, this team won the Supporters Shield. We're just going to give it to the best player in the world just because he's the best player in the world.
Yeah, so I like that. Okay, I have the ability to separate emotion from rational thought.
Yes,
and as much as I appreciate Lionel Messi, and when he came to Major League Soccer, I was gassed just like everybody else. But that being said, you can't get caught up in the Messi hype.
Yeah,
because the reality is he hasn't played a full season. Right? It's like he's been amazing in the time that he's played, but he hasn't played in the full season. Meanwhile, guys like Evander, guys like Cucho or Lucho have played full seasons, have been there in the best times, and also when the team is struggling and still been able to deliver. The thing I love about Cucho is he reminds me of Dominic Solanke of Spurs. The ability to come down to the middle of the park, make a touch, keep possession, and then finish his run into the box. Now, whether that's hold up play and also distributing, or attacking channels and making runs to the post and also delivering, right? To me, he is the complete player. He is 100% the complete player. And, I watched him in that Miami match, and it's like Messi scores a brace, but it's like the guy that you're paying attention to the most is the guy with the incredible work rate. You know what I mean? It's like I was glued to Cucho.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, he's in Major League Soccer. This is a dude that's kind of a Premier League level caliber player.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching, he's 25 years old in his prime, applying it in Major League Soccer. And it's like, you look at Evander and you look at Cucho, and you're just like, damn, I don't want to take anything from Messi or Suarez. They're great, but it's like they're not MVPs, man.
No. I yearn for the day that we lose Cucho Hernandez, because I'm not going to be happy. I cried when Lucas Alvarado left, honestly.
Yeah.
But I tell people this all the time. I told the 2 podcasts I was on earlier this week, Scarves and Spikes in Atlanta and Battered Herons from Miami. I wouldn't be surprised if by December we see an offer north of 23 to 25 for Cucho Hernandez.
Yeah, absolutely. Just out of curiosity, what league do you think he gets the offer from? Is this Premier League, or is this the Championship? Is it Ligue 1?
I think more. I think maybe I think maybe a La Liga, or maybe even a championship team. Like, I wouldn't say Borough, but a championship team in England. Ligue 1, probably mid-table Ligue 1 team. But I think La Liga is probably the likely destination in my opinion.
Well, I mean, if he goes to the Eredivisie, you're talking about a dude that's going to win their Golden Boot, hands down. That's sure. It's interesting. I think about Premier League sides, and I'm like, he would probably rule if he was with Bournemouth. A team a team like Bournemouth, a team like Forest. One of those mid-table. The team that I was like, he would kill on Fulham. Playing on top of Emil Smith Rowe and Anthony Robinson making those overlapping runs. Good Lord. That
That'd be amazing.
Could you imagine?
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh.
dude, you're talking about a guy who could potentially bring into European football. Good Lord, man. Like he's that good. He's that
Yeah.
good. So I want to shift gears because you recently did a podcast on MLS moves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about Wilfred Nancy in the context of being one of the greatest MLS coaches
Mhm.
of the here and now, but also in the context of all time. And I had to push back a little bit because I was like, well, I'll give you in the current here and now, because I actually do think that he's better than Tata Martino. And I think he's better. I think he's night and day better than Steve Cherundolo. And I think that's what has been proven a few times. Right.
Yeah.
Steve Cherundolo to me is overrated to the point where his deficiency are masked by the talent that's on his team. Right.
Mhm.
Like I saw Wilfred Nancy outcoach Steve Cherundolo. And it was night and day in the League Cup final. But here's the interesting thing, right? So he starts off his MLS coaching tenure with the CF Montreal.
Yep.
2021, he goes 12-10-12, 45 points, 45. That was good for 18th total on the table of Major League Soccer, 45 goals, 78 GA. The next year, they go 25-9, 20 wins, 5 draws, 9 losses, 65 points, good for third total on the table, 61 goals, 108 GA. And then he goes he like first and foremost, like you're getting Montreal. Like you got Montreal to the playoffs. Like that in itself is just amazing, because Montreal is one of the worst run franchises in Major League Soccer. Like I would probably think that's even worse than San Jose, and San Jose is pretty goddamn big.
Correct.
Good Lord. He parlays that into the Columbus job. 2023, 16-9-9, good for 57 points, third again on the table, 63 goals, 112 GA, obviously winning the MLS Cup, and then runners up in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Leagues Cup champions. And so he's taken that, he's on that upper plane. He's one of the, me personally, I think he's the best coach in Major League Soccer now. But in the context of all time, I don't think he's done enough to be up there on the all-time. He's phenomenal, but he's got one MLS Cup championship to his name. He's also got a Leagues Cup, but you also have to think about guys like Bruce Arena in the dark ages of Major League Soccer, winning everything with the LA Galaxy. I call it the dark ages because when there's only like 14 teams in the league, and you're the best team in Major League Soccer, you're going to win everything. But Brian Schmetzer in Seattle, 4 U.S. Open Cup titles. He won a Supporter Shield, 2 MLS Cups, and a CONCACAF Champions League. It's like, dude, that dude's won everything you can. In American soccer.
Yep.
To the point is, like, I always ask myself, it's like, well, if the national team wants to hire an MLS coach, why don't you go and get the guy who's won everything? But that being said, it's like, for me, like when we're talking about in totality of the greatest MLS coaches, I like, if he stays, there's a very good chance that even if it's only for like a 5-year gap and he wins like 2 MLS Cups and he wins he wins the Champions League, I would still kind of put him up there. But you're talking about longevity, and he has to stay in Major League Soccer in order to to reach that upper plateau.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel about Wilfied Nancy right now. I know there's a little bias on your end, but that being said, it's earned bias. Like, I don't want to take anything away from it. It's earned because he's absolutely phenomenal. But like in the scope of all time, it's like,
I think more so on a consistency basis, I think he's probably up there alongside with Brian Schmetzer. I give that guy, all the praise because, like you said, he's won everything that there is to win in American soccer. But I think that the thing with Wilfred Nancy is in Montreal, he did essentially what people are saying as far as that he's done so much with less.
He was a miracle worker.
Yeah.
He was a miracle worker. Yeah.
So I have somebody told me that after he left Montreal, there's his agents, reaching out to the teams and nobody's, thinking of him. Cincinnati goes with Pat Noonan, and etc. But he said Columbus reached out and said, "Hey, yeah, we want to take a chance on this guy." And for him to keep the consistent basis of what he did in Montreal to continuing it with Columbus, that led to an MLS Cup in his first year, and still having a successful run through CONCACAF this year, Leagues Cup this year, getting back to the playoffs this year. I think on a more consistency basis with how many teams that there are, I think that he can be in the talks to be one of the greatest coaches of all time, because he's kept a consistent basis of
Sure.
coaching and results to warrant that title. The longevity, yes, I can agree on, because he's been in MLS. I think this is year 4.
Yeah,
2 with Montreal, 2 with Columbus. But I think if you can have great success in a short short time that you are getting familiarized with the league, where it's changing every day or every week, every hour, and to keep the team that you are with relevant in a span to still be cup contenders, and be one of the up and up, not really up and up teams, but to go from bottom of the table or just missing the playoff line to consistently making the playoffs. I think it kind of warrants that. Hey, this guy is the real deal. Now let's take a look at Bruce Arena, like you said, in the dark ages of MLS, 100%. I mean, Siggy Schmidt also did really well.
Yep.
I think that's probably the coach, and nothing can take away what Siggy Schmidt had done for MLS, honestly.
Well, yeah, I think the Coach of the Year award is named after him. Yeah, so
yeah. So, but I think in a short span of 4 years to be consistent with Montreal and Columbus, I think you have to kind of give it to him that he is the real deal, and there's no backing off from that.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 5 years, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. You mentioned the word consistency, and I think that pretty much sums it up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any team in Major League Soccer has been as consistent as the Columbus Crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you talk about the LA Galaxy. I think this year they'll be in the playoffs. I think they missed the playoff 5 times out of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't only until this offseason when they brought in Paintsel and Peck did LA Galaxy get to where they are. LAFC continues just to buy every single age star that they can possibly bring in. No disrespect to Maggie Bouge or Bouanga. Those guys are phenomenal. Yeah. But the reality is, it's like, yeah, I mean, the consistent, when you talk about consistency, they've been, Columbus has been able to do it more without the flashy headlines. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I will say is that, let me get my train of thought here. Brain fart. One of the things that I will say is that in order to be great, you have to be able to be fluid, and that's what I like about Wilfied Nancy. He's not afraid to rotate his squad when he needs to, and then also when he rotates his squad, he's also not necessarily married to one formation or one set of tactics. He's going to adapt with the players that he's working with. I think that was evident in I want to say it was the Toronto match where I think Cucho started on the bench. I think they rotated. Yeah, they rotated, and they had their top 3 players on the bench. Eventually, they came in, but the interesting thing was that he because of fatigue, he was rotating a squad, and that looked very different from what we usually see with their prime starting 11. and they're
Yeah.
still able to get results. And I think that's a testament to not only his ability, but also his ability to relate to his players in order to buy in. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's the ultimate sign of respect, and that's also, for me at least, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate sign of a great coach.
I think the other match we can also point out to where the same thing like that happened. League's Cup final was on a Wednesday against LAFC. We go to Philadelphia, a place where we hadn't won in 10 years, I think it was. And we pull out a result out of thin air with only Patrick Schulte starting pretty much. And we have all three plus Nagby on the bench, and Yao Yaboa scores the game winner. You said it yourself, the buy-in with these players, I think is very critical. These players love playing for Nancy. Nancy loves going to war for these guys. Destined by the 7.5-minute rant after the Seattle match, where he just took one question and then stormed off from the post-game presser.
By the way, 100% Major League Soccer should have given those waivers to Columbus, right?
Oh yeah.
First and foremost, what are you doing playing on an international break? That's number one. Like,
correct.
Right? It's like, listen, for this week, there's just no fixtures. Give some of these players the much needed rest. That's number one. But number two, it's like if you have guys that are out on international duty, that's why you have your academy team. That's why you have Columbus Crew 2 to fill in those gaps when you absolutely need it. And for Major League Soccer, especially considering that Columbus is one of the best team, if not the best team in Major League Soccer, to do that, to not allow them to bring up academy players because they use them. Don't give me that. To me, that's nonsense. To me, it's 100% bullshit, and it affected that game. And Wilfied Nancy had every reason to be upset. I mean, granted, it's cool. I'll take the 4-0 win, but it's like, dude, when Rusnik is throwing chili peppers at a midfielder playing a goal, it's like whatever. Yeah. Like, I'll take it because it's 3 points and it was much needed 3 for Seattle. But that being said, it's like whatever. Oh, and by the way, that Campeones Cup final, that the goalkeeper for Club America in the shootout,
Mulligan.
Yeah, his left foot was completely off the line on the.
I agree, but I think the referees did what they could to kind of keep the game within the integrity of the law of the game. I think Amundsen's going down the middle no matter what. Now, I think had he gone to the right and that was saved, I think you have a case for a retake. But I think it was a well officiated game, honestly. But I think with the integrity of the laws of the game, I think Amundsen's going down the middle no matter what. So I think they got it right. My heart says they got it completely 100,000% wrong because he's off the line.
Sure.
But it's it's one of those things where, all right, it's over. Now we can just control our destiny in the standings, and let's go for something that actually matters, in my opinion, and that's MLS Cup.
Right. But still, though, it's like if you have VAR, okay, and I'm like, I hate VAR. And I will die on the I hate VAR mountain until the end, right? Because if you have it, then use it, right? And if you have it, maintain the integrity of what VAR is supposed to be there for, which is to reverse human error. And that's it's like, I understand, like, you don't want to make your refs on the field look bad, but it's Major League Soccer, the worst refs in the world. Like, it is the worst officiating on a global stage, and it's kind of embarrassing. But that being said, you have VAR to back it up, and it's like, dude, you're in a final. And I understand what you're saying, but it's like, if you have it, use it. If you have it, use it. It's like, that's what it's there for. And like, don't back up the ref. It's like, you're supposed to be the independent arbiter of officiating. It's the instant, like, it's the equivalent to instant replay in baseball and football. It's like, that's what it's there for, to correct any type of mistakes. And I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think it was a well-run match. But that being said, it's like, come on, man. You're the
If you
VAR
haven't used it.
official.
Yeah.
If you haven't
Al
used it.
Also, the PGMO, I'd like to have a word with you. I think they are the worst. The EPL refs.
Yeah.
Mike Oliver is like, hold my beer.
Yeah. Well, all right. So in the North London derby, the yellow cards that came out before the half, I think there was 7 yellows in the first half of that, and a lot of those
I think
yellows
so,
were,
yeah.
it was, dude, it was ridiculous. And the red cards on Declan Rice and Bruno Fernandes.
That was
sure.
annoying. Yeah.
I will. Yeah, I think I might tend to agree with you about well, because it's different. Like compared to 25 years ago to in today, like it's a younger generation of refs in the Premier League, and
Yeah.
they are strictly by the book now instead of having those veteran refs that actually had experience. Making those calls based on the experience of the 20 years they've been doing it. Now it's like it's just completely different. But
yeah.
Before we take off, let's talk a little about the playoffs, because if the playoffs started today, it looks like Columbus would be taking on Tim Ream and his Charlotte FC. The 2 versus 7 in the Audi playoff. Cincinnati would be taking on the Red Bulls. Orlando City, NYCFC, and then Miami would probably get the winner between Montreal and Toronto if the playoff starts today. But you can kind of go a little bit off of it. The way that I look at the Eastern Conference is completely different from the way I look at the Western Conference. I think actually the best football in Major League Soccer is coming from the Western Conference. I think in the Eastern Conference it's the top 3, and then there's everybody else. And it really looks like. It really looks like it's going to end up with a showdown between Columbus and Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. Is that is that what you're expecting from the East? Is it going to be Columbus Miami?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think Columbus and Miami can beat any other team that's in the playoffs on the Eastern Conference right now. I'm willing to ride that boat until it sinks. That it's going to be Columbus, Miami in the Eastern Conference Final, and whoever wins that match is going to win MLS Cup. Will it be Columbus? I sure as hell hope so. But no, I think the juicy matchup I like is that Orlando NYCFC. If the playoffs started today, that's going to be a good one. But no, I'm riding that boat. Columbus, Miami, Eastern Conference Final till the wheels fall off, till the ship sinks. Till the fat lady sings goodnight, whatever it is. That's definitely my thought process.
Congratulations to the New York Red Bulls for quietly sneaking into their 15th straight MLS playoff appearance.
Jeez,
the Red Bulls suck. But the crazy thing is that quarterfinal matchup that has the potential to be another edition of the Hell is Real Derby, Columbus Cincinnati. That's also very spicy as well too. And I think that that's going to be the interesting thing, right? This is what MLS had envisioned, not only to have that end of season drama going into decision day, but also into the playoffs as well too, where you actually have those star matchups between Cucho and Lucho before it gets to Cucho and Messi in the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, yes, of course, I'm going to watch Seattle get drilled in the first round of the playoffs. Okay, that's great. Like, I'm putting that to the side, right? So it's like, what else can I watch? And it's like, oh, damn. It's like, yeah. Granted, okay, cool. The top 3 of the East, fair enough. But then it's like, oh, there's actually a shitload of star power in the Eastern Conference, right? That are going to make me have eyes on the Eastern Conference come playoff time. And I still believe that the road to MLS Cup rolls through Columbus. I don't think there's until somebody goes to Columbus and beats them, and of course winning a playoff match on the road it's not the easiest thing to do. And then of course then you have to outcoach Wilfied Nancy in order to do it on the road. Yeah, that's why I think Columbus is going to go back to the MLS Cup final.
If any indication of last year's conference final between Columbus and Cincinnati is a fraction of what I think maybe a quarterfinal is going to be, I think the league is in for a treat because last year was just absolutely amazing. Um, Down 2-0. I was writing this off. Honestly, I was writing this off. I'm like, okay, Cincinnati, yeah, sure, 2-0 at the half. Yeah, they've got it. And then it's just like a switch flipped, and I said, "Oh my god, this is absolutely amazing." But this Eastern Conference has always been cutthroat, in my opinion. West, amazing to see the Galaxy back on top of the West. But I think it just doesn't have that what's the word, that tension that the Eastern Conference has. Whether it's last year or this year, I just think the Eastern Conference is a more dominant side of the bracket than the West.
I don't know, man. Yeah. Like, okay, well, first and foremost, I want to give some flowers to Orlando City. They quietly had a nice month heading into this portion of the schedule. I don't like. I would be remiss if I didn't give some props to Orlando City, but I think they're going to be one and done. But I'll say this, right? So Seattle, and I got to talk about Seattle real quick before we close this one down, because Seattle, credit to them, because since April 28th, I think they're like 19 of 23 in league play. Like, they've quietly put themselves in a position to have a nice first round matchup. That I think at the end of the day, they'd be playing Colorado. But the Rapids have had a very good season, and I don't necessarily know how that's going to play out. But if Seattle were to get past Colorado in the first round, they get LAFC. And of course, LAFC has beat them 4 out of 4 this year. And it's been very convincing one way, right? So my biggest problem is, while I agree with you that the East is cutthroat, it's like, I look at this and I'm like, how my sleeper, put it this way, my sleeper in the Western Conference is Portland. I think Portland's going to surprise a lot of people. Yeah. And I don't buy into LA Galaxy, because I think their defense is just not going to. I don't think their defense is good enough to hold up. I think in the Western Conference, I think the most complete team is probably going to be LAFC, and I think they're going to be there at the end. I think it's going to be Columbus LAFC for the MLS Cup. I don't think Miami is going to be able to go to Columbus and beat them. Or if the role is reversed, it's going to be played in Miami. I think Miami's got home field throughout, right? So I still think Columbus has the capability of going down there and beating them. I'm at that point where it's like, that's my MLS Cup final right there. Columbus LAFC.
Hey, third final, Wilfied Nancy beats Steven Cherundolo in. That's fine with me. I'll take that any day.
How do you feel about LAFC and Steve Cherundolo? Like, do you think that he should probably have been let go? I mean, there was that stretch there where he had lost 4 straight MLS finals, or excuse me, 4 straight finals, and he only got that reprieve by beating a bad Sporting Kansas City in the US Open Cup final. It's like, the way I look at this is like, if you're a serious team, you don't a serious team would have let go of that coach after the second final loss. Yeah. It's like Miami. It's like, if you spend all that money, you're not doing it for US Open Cup trophies. You're not doing it for supporter shields. You're doing it for MLS Cup trophies and CONCACAF Champions Cup trophies. That's it. Yeah. If you're doing that, if you're spending on that high end, you're doing it for those 2 trophies, and nothing else matters. And if you're not getting it done, you're not getting it done.
Yeah.
But to me, yeah.
The question, it's a fair question to ask too. I can't remember who asked it, but it's a fair question to ask too about, about losing consecutive finals, and then just kind of negate it by, well, it's a different team, it's a different players, different style. It doesn't matter. A final is a final, no matter who you're facing. Final. Yeah, if you're in it and you've been the coach for the last 4 of them and you lose, yeah, it's a fair question to ask. You have to answer 100%. Just don't kind of beat around the bush and just say, well, it's different. It's different. No, it's if the same thing with Wilfied Nancy, he'd answer the question straightforward. I think he would have been let go if the roles were reversed.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, it's like when you have a window of opportunity in order to maximize it and get as many trophies as you possibly can. If you're in the context of getting there, but you can't get over the hump, they're going to find somebody else to get it done. Right.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of results, right? It's a results driven business at the end of the day. And if you're not getting it, you're not getting it. Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, you talk about botch VAR in the US Open Cup final. The LAFC's first goal by Olivier Giroud, 100%. That play was offsides, and they allowed it to stand.
Oh,
and of course, yeah. And if they actually called the offside correctly, Kansas City would have won that final.
I think it goes
Sporting
back
KC, I think they equalized like 8 minutes later, and that would have been the winner.
Yes, yeah. It goes back to, hey, if you have VAR, use it. Like, how does VAR even get that wrong?
Well, this has been great, man.
Definitely.
Before we take off, man, do you have anything coming up on the Massive Report?
Well, covering the game tomorrow against Philadelphia. Honestly, that's the only thing. But I think coming up soon we have the podcast, Massive Report podcast with Patrick Murphy, and co coming out on Tuesday. So that's going to be a good one to listen to because it's going to be Miami and Philadelphia are up in 1. But no, just covering the match tomorrow. Got some feature stories lined up for throughout the week. And that'll take us right into what's next week, New England.
Yep. I hate the Revolution. I absolutely hate Philadelphia and New England with a passion. Yeah. I don't know why. I can't necessarily tell you why I don't like them. I just don't like them. Straight up, I've never been a fan of the Philadelphia Union. Period.
Fair enough.
I do like Kevin Sullivan though. He's pretty. He's
pretty amazing. Good kid. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for stopping by, man. This has been absolutely fun. I like your passion. I like your bias for the Columbus Crew. It's absolutely awesome, man. See, because I'm the same way, right? Like when it comes to the Sounders, I'm the exact. It's like I can be objective, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, it's the Sounders. Yeah. So it's like, exactly.
Yeah, no, I had a blast, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll definitely do this again. I would like to have you on when we're actually in the playoffs, and especially if it gets down to that, we have a third edition of the Hell Is Real Derby. That would be absolutely blessed to get you back on. So we'll talk and we'll get to that bridge when we cross it when we come to MLS playoff time. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Go ahead again, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. Have a great evening.